Hello, for USCFsales.com, I'm Steve Lopez with another ChessBase 11 how-to video. We've been looking at copying games into another database and applying an opening key to that database. The genesis of these videos was that a particular user was doing searches for openings over and over and over again, found himself doing the same searches for the same openings over and over, and wanted to know basically how to save that search so he didn't have to keep setting up the search parameters every time he used ChessBase. Now, one solution is to create a database of those games. For example, a couple of videos back, I created a database of games on the Caro-Kann advanced variation, as you see here. And then in the last video, we applied an opening key to it, which meant that we took a piece of an existing opening key and put it on this database. Now, what is a key? We'll refresh your memory here by going to Mega Database 2011, double-clicking on it to open the game list. What we have up here at the top of the game list are a bunch of tabs. These are different keys, different indexes where you can look for various themes, openings, endgames, etc. It's just like an index in a book. For example, as we've seen before, if you go to openings, you have a list of openings by ECO code and variation. There are other ones as well. You could click on endgames with Mega Database, and you get a key of different kinds of endgames. Of course, clicking on the plus sign expands it so you get different, for example, here, different pawn endings, different combinations of pawns. Strategy gives you different strategic themes. Tactics gives you different tactical themes, etc. What you can do if you do particular searches over and over again, for example, let me go back to the database desktop. I'm in the Caro-Kann advanced variation database. Let's say I want to search for pure king and pawn endings in the Caro-Kann advance. I want to look just for pure pawn endings. How do I do it? Well, of course, we can do a search for it just by right-clicking and selecting search and going to the search mask and putting in our parameters under material. But let's say I keep doing this over and over and over again, and I want to save this search so I don't have to keep going to this display and setting it up. How do I do it? Well, we're going to show you how. First of all, you double-click on the icon for the database in question to bring up the game list. Now, there's different tabs here. I'm going to be doing an endgame search, and I could go to endgames, and we find there's no key here. Another way I could do it is because I'm setting up my own key. I'm going to create an index of my own. I'm actually going to do it under themes. So when I select themes, I get the same display. In fact, just to double check, let's go to sources first and then go back to themes to make sure that I have the same display here. What we do first is install an empty key. What we're going to do is we're going to create a key essentially with nothing in it. We did this in our last video, you'll recall this. So we'll install an empty key. Of course, there's nothing here, there's no games found. How do I create a key for king and pawn endings? How do I create an index for it? It's very simple. All you have to do, and you have to do this on your keyboard, so I'm going to have to describe this to you. I can't show it to you. Is find the insert key on your keyboard and press insert. And what you'll get is the search mask. Instead of searching, though, you'll see at the top it says define key mask. Basically, anything that you can search for in the search mask can be turned into a permanent index key for your database. I was talking about doing a pure king and pawn ending search, so we'll go to material. What I want is pawns 1 through 8, pawns 1 through 8. No pieces, no queens, no rooks, bishops, or knights. That's all I have to do is 1 through 8 for the pawns here. And then go to OK. And you click OK. And instead of searching, what it does, it presents you with what your key is going to look like. This says 1 through 8 pawns against 1 through 8 pawns. It's a little, that's what the little two-headed arrow is for. And it's a little hard to understand what this is actually saying. So what I want to do is change the text. You'll see we have a flashing cursor here. I'm going to change it to read pure pawn endings. Go way over here to the right and click OK. And now we have pure pawn endings with a 0 because we haven't classified the games into this key yet. So we go back up here where it says opening keys. Even though this isn't an opening key, you have to go to the opening keys tab, select classify all keys. We saw this in the last video when we copied an opening key over. Notice now, last time you may remember it just said openings and the rest of these were in halftone. Well, since I've created a theme key, you'll see that it's checked off. So we click OK, and it will classify the openings and the endgame that I just put in here. Now that it's done, we can go to themes, and notice now there are 227 games in this database that have pure pawn endings. And notice down here we have a list of the games. We can just double click on a game, and after that game loads, it'll actually jump us to that position where we're in pure pawn endings. Notice we back up one move. We had a bishop on the board. Bishop takes, king takes. Bishop takes pawn, king takes bishop. Now we have a pure pawn ending. This is kind of an advanced concept for ChessBase. Not advanced because it's difficult, but advanced because it's not something you're going to use a lot of the time. We have users that have used ChessBase for years and never done this. However, if you ever want to create a key, notice that I can just exit out of this, go back to my database desktop, double click on that database again, go to themes, there's my pure pawn endings. So I've basically just made a permanent index in my Caro-Kann advanced database that I created a couple weeks ago in that video. I've created an index now where I can just go in and look at pure pawn endings. Because I found myself doing that search over and over again, I just created a key for it. Anything that you can look for in the search mask can be turned into a key. And all you have to do is go to that key. For example, I could click, in this case, endgames. Just remember to install empty key, then you press insert, and then set up your search parameters. Click OK, and it creates an empty key, or I'm sorry, it creates a new key containing those search parameters, as we just did for themes. Pure pawn endings is now permanent. In fact, if I add more games to this database, just remember to go back to where it says opening keys and classify all keys, just to make sure those games get classified. So as I add games to the database, I'll actually see more than 227 games with pure pawn endings as more games are added. Until next time, for USCFsales.com, I'm Steve Lopez. Thanks for watching.